Chad Hayden with Moose Runners Barbecue's 19th annual Jack Daniel's World Barbecue Champion, and this is Barbecue Central.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the really big Barbecue Central show. It's the show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling. Originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio. It is the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here. You want to jump in on the show tonight? More than happy to have you. A phone call at your behest, 216-220-0966. If you would rather forego the email if you'd rather forego the phone call and lob me an email, here's how you do that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to greg@bbqcentralshow.com or on the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening, in case you didn't get the newsletter. Coming up in about 13 minutes from now, it's the second Tuesday of the month, the second Tuesday of the last month of the year. So never has it been more accurate for me to state the 2018 rapidly coming to a close. And the second Tuesday of the month brings not one, but two segments from the creator of the most heavily trafficked barbecue and grilling website on the face of the earth. That, of course, AmazingRibs.com, and that person being Meathead. And we'll be talking about a myriad of topics. I believe I actually used that word in the newsletter. So we're going to be talking about, to lead off, if you can believe it or not, we're going to be talking about vacuum packaging. You ever heard of the food saver, I guess I should say, or a similar product, if you will? That is what we're going to be talking about. I got a great question, which I will be recounting a portion of that email from a listener who had a pretty good question. Meathead said, hey, I got some thoughts on that. So we'll talk about that right off the jump. And then we will get into talking about beef tenderloins or tenderloins in general. Might mix in a little prime rib talk. Also, might mix in a little gift-giving suggestions as we are just a little over a week away from Christmas Day. Just past Hanukkah, by the way. Shout out to my Jewish Centralites. Hope your Hanukkah was great. So that's what we have with Meathead in tow for the first hour. AmazingRibs.com is website. Then we'll move to the second hour. And while we used to have a lot of what we're going to be doing at 10:14 or 14 past the hour, we don't have as much of it as we once did. Some of that is because the show doesn't really solely focus on competition barbecue. Not that it solely ever focused on competition barbecue, but certainly there was a large portion of the show that it seemed to revolve around as the show started to get some legs underneath it during the live stretches. And the end of the year for Kansas City Barbecue Society means that there is going to be an election coming up, that for the open spots for the board of directors of KCBS. And at 14 past the second hour, I will be joined by someone who is hopeful to get your vote if you are a voting member of the KCBS for that board of next year, 2019. That, of course, is the pitmaster of the American Dream BBQ Team and friend of show, David Qualls, will be joining me. And David will be making his case, kind of qualifying himself as to why he believes he is a good fit. From a holistic standpoint, we'll obviously get into some of his platform topics. He furnished me graphs and charts that we can go through as well. And most importantly, what the state, in his opinion, of KCBS is right now and why he feels that this is the time that he should jump in. I believe he had given it some serious consideration, maybe actually started to make a run at some point last year or the year before, and then either stopped, never went through with it, or pulled out at some point. But this year, he is fully in. DavidQualls.com is his website if you want to check him out in advance. QUALLS, DavidQualls.com. So that's 14 past the second hour. And then helping me close out the show is a guy by the name of Bryan Crawford from Crawford's Barbecue. You can check him out at crawfordsbbq.com, and he makes a new product on the market called Pit Spritz. We all love easy. We all love great tasting. If you can meld them together somehow, what's better than that? And Bryan believes he has a product that has accomplished that, so we'll talk to him about the Crawford's Barbecue Pit Spritz and some of the other stuff that he might be into here. So there's your lineup. Meathead, first hour, David Qualls, Bryan Crawford, second hour. Your phone calls and emails as they mix in, 216-220-0966. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. Don't forget to follow me socially on Instagram at BBQ Central Show. Also, same handle on Twitter. And you can find me on Facebook /BBQ Central Show. And that's where you might be watching this a live feed right now. So, hey, happy to have you aboard on the Facebook. I like to tell you each and every week, if it's your first time on the Facebook feed or YouTube, I do monitor chat because it's a very user-friendly chat role. Facebook sucks. And I don't want to have to see myself as well with Facebook or with YouTube. I can pop the chat out. I don't have to figure out a way to work around the video as well. Facebook has not figured out what YouTube has figured out. So if you leave a comment on Facebook, don't feel like I'm just blatantly ignoring you. I'm not doing that. It's just hard for me to monitor, so I don't monitor. I will go back in after the show. If I can comment at that point, certainly happy to do that. So don't think that I'm ignoring you. I am, but it's not because of you. It's because Facebook's user interface on their chat is horrible and YouTube's is great. So you can go to YouTube as well, or go to my main website and click on the YouTube Live button. That's a quick way to get over there. And then if you want to take part in the chat, you're more than welcome to. All right, so I wanted to circle back on a conversation that we had last week with Frank Rizzo. From the Steak Ager. First, great getting caught up with Frank and seeing their growth over the past 24, 26 months. Also, I was not expecting him to drop that 20% off coupon at the end of the interview. In fact, I would have preferred him to give me a heads up so we could have laid that out a little bit better, given it a little bit more promotion during the segment. Nevertheless, the code was Radio Steak, all one word, lowercase. That gets you 20% off the Steak Ager Master 45. Fun fact, that is their biggest unit that they're currently offering. So if you're just finding out about that and you were interested in a Steak Ager Master 45 and you were looking to save 20%, go ahead and put it in the cart and then hit Radio Steak for your coupon code. That gets you 20% off. So 20% is a decent chunk of change. So much so that I was giving it legit thought as to if I wanted to actually lay down for one or not. For round numbers, if you're looking at it, $160 off $800 retail. Good deal. No doubt about it. Now, sure, I could probably pull the ultimate bag move and ask Frank Rizzo for a free one, but I'm not going to do that. You wouldn't put a lot of credibility in anything I had to say about a free Steak Ager Master 45 because, quite honestly, I'd had no skin in the game. It's free. If I say it's really great, what are you going to tell me? Of course you're going to say it's great. You got it for free. It's an $800 retail unit. Blah, blah, blah. I get it. That's why I'm not going to pull the ultimate bag move and ask for the free Steak Ager 45. Now, if you're a fan of the show, you know that I have become a pretty big proponent / fan of dry aging in 2018. So I reached out to a few folks just to see if my idea to purchase was well-founded or not well-founded, and after getting close counsel, I have decided to not.
Andrew, you are not the father.
I've decided to not get the Master 45. This is the only, well, this is only my decision. And if you're really into dry aging meat at home, I'm not here to poo-poo on it whatsoever. But even at $6.40, you still have to then fill the unit up with some kind of meat. Then you have to wait 30 days before you eat it. And for me, that would run just about 30 days minimum. And to be honest, probably another 30 days on top of that because I'm more of the funk guy. So if I had everything ready for a January 1st start, I wouldn't be eating until March. On top of that, I'm not sure how many people in my house would really like that beef dry-aged flavor. And yes, I know there's other sizes, but this is the size that had the discount. So in conclusion, love the discount from Frank Rizzo. Appreciate the discount from Frank Rizzo. But at this point, for me personally, I have to pass because I wouldn't take I know I wouldn't take full advantage of. If there was a discount on the other ones, maybe I would be a little bit more inclined. However, if you're a big dry ager, Radio Steak is the coupon code for your 20% off. All right, let me talk to you quickly about Traeger grills before we get to Meathead. Behind every great meal is a great grill, but not just any grill, a Traeger grill. And the Timberline is Traeger's most advanced grill yet. It allows you to grill, smoke, bake, roast, braise, and barbecue like a pro, no matter what your level, thanks to the incredible wood-fired taste. Seriously, you don't know flavor till you're cooking with it, and Traeger grills use all-natural hardwood pellets as fuel, so you're literally cooking with flavor. From low and slow smoked ribs to a seared steak, even a baked apple pie, Traeger grills can handle it all, and the Traeger Timberline makes it even easier thanks to the Wi-Fi capability. You can check on cooks, kick up temps, set custom cook cycles anytime, anywhere, right through the Traeger grill app on your smartphone. Find one at your local Traeger dealer if they carry them, or check them out online, TraegerGrills.com. That's TraegerGrills.com. If you want to beef up that barbecue game of yours, Traeger shop classes going coast to coast, bringing barbecue knowledge and amazing wood-fired food everywhere they go. Taught by professionals like embedded correspondent from Texas, Doug Scheiding. How about Diva Q? You ever heard of her? How about Matt Pittman from Meat Church, just to name a few? They're teaching those classes. Find a shop class near you. Sign up today. TraegerGrills.com/shop class. That's TraegerGrills.com/shop class. Got to get you a Traeger now. All right, we have Meathead coming up shortly. And you are listening and watching the Barbecue Central show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And this portion of the show is being brought to you by Butcher Barbecue, makers of award-winning injections, marinades, rubs, seasonings, barbecue sauces, grilling oils, all of Butcher Barbecue products tested on the competition circuit, as well as in backyards worldwide. Be the pitmaster of your neighborhood and visit butcherbbq.com to stock up on everything. Always trust your butcher. I've said that long time. I say that long time. Always trust your butcher. All right. Joining me now, the creator of the AmazingRibs.com website. You see him here the second Tuesday of each and every month. We race to the hotline. And welcome back, friend of the show, Meathead. Hey, Meathead, how are you?
Hey, how's the barbecue rock star of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and
How are all the Centralites tonight?
We're jazzed up and ready to rock it out with Meathead. Meathead, let me tell you this. I don't want to deviate too far, but, for, I would say, years, we have often started this by you saying, how's the Cleveland Cavalier of basketball? I'm imagining since LeBron James has left, we don't want to talk about that anymore. But the team's semi-competitive. But we've also talked a little bit about how troubling it is to be yours or mine fan of our professional football teams. But let me point out a bright spot, Meathead. It looks like we're both back on the come, baby.
Yeah, it does. It looks like both the Browns and the Bears are playing well this year. They're original teams, aren't they? Weren't the Browns one of the first teams?
Yes, that's right. So,
yeah, the Bears were too.
Well, I had them pegged at 2 or less wins, and I'm happy to say I am very wrong. I think we're 4 or 5 wins in now, so it's taken Greg Williams 5 games to win 4. It took Hugh Jackson 3 seasons to win 4. So what's that tell you? Anyway, we have...
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So a number of different things to talk about here this evening, and I wanted to start with this, which was an email from a guy by the name of John House, longtime Centralite here. And I don't want to get into the whole email, but I wanted to read a little of an excerpt here just to set it up properly and then get your thoughts. And we were talking about food savers on our last embedded correspondence segment.
Yes.
Wish lists, things of this nature. And his email goes on to read, one of the comments I heard on the show was about cooking as many briskets as you can and then freezing them. I like that idea a lot, but wonder what the fastest ways are to actually do that as to not increase risks for botulism. Anytime we create an anaerobic environment that prevents the normal bacteria growth that would indicate spoilage, we leave ourselves at risk for potential bacteria growth that could be quite problematic. And I believe from what he's talking about, this anaerobic state, that would be a vacuum state. And specifically, I guess is there a dangerous period of time where you vacuum seal meat and then throw it in the freezer, and before it gets down into, below 40, above 140, the 2 safe temperatures, are we putting ourselves at some kind of risk using a food saver that maybe I wasn't really aware of?
No.
No.
And that's the good news. Most bacteria thrive in oxygen, and most bacteria can be killed with exposure to heat. Heat is what the food scientists call the kill step. Now, I am not a scientist, but I happen to be married to a food safety scientist from the FDA who is at the moment in Washington reviewing grant applications. She is the editor of a Food Microbiology magazine, and she is a very high-ranking research scientist. So she keeps me informed and teaches me. So I'm pretty sure about what I'm speaking here.
Okay.
Most bacteria die from heat. That's why people are getting sick from romaine. It's not cooked. You can grill romaine, but it's not going to get hot enough to cook it in the center. They call cooking the kill step. So cooking kills just about everything. The temperature where we can feel really, really safe is 160 degrees. Everything dies almost instantly at that temp. But if you bring it up over 132, over 131, most bacteria start dying at that temperature. And if you hold it at that temperature long enough, you can kill almost all of them. The problem is what they call spore formers. And the botulinum bacteria is a spore former. A spore is a hibernation state, if you will. It forms like a little crust, a shell, and it's almost indestructible. And you can cook it, you can heat it, you can boil it, you can microwave it, and you may not be able to kill these spores. So if they form spores, the spores remain viable. Now, the botulinum bug is rare in that it prefers no oxygen, an anaerobic environment. If you put it in one of these vacuum sealers and suck out the air, you're getting most of the air out, but not all of it. But when you freeze it, you're not going to have any bacterial growth. Once you get down below 38 degrees, which is your 33 to 38 is your ideal fridge temp, most bacteria don't grow. When you get it down below 32 and you freeze it, almost nobody's growing, no how, no way. So you might have spores in your brisket or on your brisket, because if you've cooked your brisket properly, you've cooked it up to 190 to 203, in that range, you've killed everybody. There may be a few spores in the air that land on it while you're slipping it in the bag, but you stick it in the freezer and they ain't going nowhere, they ain't growing.
But these spores would have to be available somewhere to fall on the brisket if you've, as you said, if you've taken it to this temperature and you've killed everything. They're not just going to magically appear out of thin air. Like, does botulism just run rampant on the kitchen?
They can come out of thin air.
Really?
Bacteria is all around us, everywhere we are. But botulism prefers to grow underground. And the highest risk we face from botulism is you go into your favorite neighborhood Italian restaurant and they have garlic cloves in oil. So they've taken the garlic out of the ground, peeled them off, stuck them in olive oil. Now we're in an anaerobic atmosphere, and it's sitting around at room temp for days. That could be a risk, and there are a small number of cases reported every year of people getting very sick. The problem with botulism is really bad stuff. It can kill you, and so you don't want to mess with it. If you like garlic oil, you can make it and use it. Don't store it, or buy it pre-made where they actually use acid in the production. A small amount of acidulation will actually prevent the spores from popping open and growing. But you have almost no risk on a cooked brisket. Everything's dead. Maybe a spore or two will come out of space. Pop it in the vacuum seal. You're not getting all the air out. Throw it in the freezer. Ain't nothing growing in there anyhow. When you pull it out, you don't want to leave it sitting around at room temp. Leave it in the fridge where it's 38 and below, and it'll thaw there, and you're going to be fine.
So the only way that I was ever taught to use the food saver was take whatever meat you just cooked, throw it in the bag, suck all the air up, maybe put it in, if it was exceptionally moist or had a lot of fluid on it, put it in the freezer for a little bit of a par freeze for 35, 40 minutes just to firm it up a little bit, and then suck the rest of the air out and away you go. Regardless of that, so let's say in that step, some botulism flew into the bag and it's there. The reason I guess I never even gave it a second thought is because I was always taught, okay, well, grab your pulled pork or your brisket or your ribs if you're doing that, and then boil a pot of water and then throw the frozen pork or brisket in the water. So I would imagine that for 30 minutes and let it come up, back to barbecue temp, if you will. That would clear everything out of the bag, right? Just from the heat.
Certainly would. The question of reheating frozen cooked food is interesting because you're going to follow different techniques. For example, frozen salmon, I wouldn't want to throw in boiling water because I don't want to cook that salmon at up to 212. Frozen salmon, throw it in a sous vide bath.
Right.
Set your sous vide machine for 132. I know a lot of sous vide recipes show 125, 126, but now you're back in the danger zone. 131 to 132, which is medium rare for everything. It's medium rare for beef. It's medium rare for pork. It's medium rare for bacon. At that temperature, you're safe. You're killing bacteria, but there's not going to be anything live in that bag. And if there is, it's very low risk. You've cooked it already. So you slip it in the sous vide bath or in a microwave where it cooks real fast. I mean, ideal temp for seafood is around 130 anyhow, 125 to 130. In general, I mean, that's always a good temp to shoot for, 130 to 135. Safe temp, maximum tenderness and juiciness. kill all those bacteria. So you got nothing to worry about there. Microwave or simmering water, boiling water, sous vide, reheating, or just defrost it in the fridge, and then you can reheat it.
All right, John. So hopefully that answers the question that you had for us. And Meathead, appreciate your insight there.
Hopefully he's listening. Is he listening?
He'll get it on podcast for sure. I know that. So regardless if he's listening live or not, he will have his question answered. And I appreciate jumping that in kind of the last minute there. So let's move into what we wanted to talk about.
Food savers are cool, by the way. I'm sure you covered all this.
Well, I'm telling you, 12 years ago when I first got my Weber Smoky Mountain, I had no idea how to light it, was about ready to throw it out after the first horribly average rib cook ever. I found virtualweberbullet.com and a guy by the name of Jim Minion, and then my life changed forever. And the first thing that the guy, how long have you been in barbecue? I said, it's been weeks. And he said, go out and buy a food saver right now. That was like, if you bought a cooker or a pit of any kind, the suggestion also was make sure you also get a food saver so you can save everything so you don't have to eat pork 7 days in a row if it's just like you and a lady.
There are two kinds of spoilage. There's bacterial spoilage, which is very high risk, and then there's oxidation. And the food saver removes oxidation and freezer burn, which is related to it. Right. And oxidation attacks fat more than it does protein. Fat! So... haven't heard that in a while. And so things like pulled pork, which are loaded with fat, that fat in the pulled pork can oxidize. You can get freezer burn. So food savers are a great tool for that.
Let's talk about tenderloins. I believe that was one of the topics that we wanted to hit. We will get a little prime ribbage going on because I know a lot of people are going to be ramping up for it. We just put in our order for prime rib at the Barb and Patty's Butcher Shop in Mentor, Ohio. I mean, we got 4 people.
What'd you order?
Well, we got 4 people that are going to be eating it in earnest. We got 7 pounds.
Okay.
Is that good, you think?
Well, I mean, I like to calculate at least a half a pound of raw material going in, and you can have up to 20% loss, so you can end up with more than a quarter pound. A quarter pound burger is not much of a meal. So often I will calculate a pound going in, but you got to remember, you're going to lose about 30% of a prime rib in trimming. And depending on how much bone is involved, a lot of loss. And there's a lot of fat. These butchers are charging prime rate, really expensive, and there's a heck of a lot of fat on a rib roast. Now, a lot of people like to leave it on. They're under the misimpression that that fat is going to enhance the flavor of the meat.
Right.
Fat and water don't mix. That fat will melt, but it's going to run off the meat. It can't penetrate the meat. I can't say that enough. People think I'm nuts, but fat doesn't get into the meat at all. Zero, none, no how, no way. The fat inside the meat, the marbling, is crucial, but the fat cap will not enhance the flavor of the meat one iota.
Right.
And if you have a really good spice rub, and I do, I like my Big Bad Beef Rub, the recipe for which is on our website. You put all that on top of the fat, and what's your wife going to do the minute she sits down with that?
She's going to take it off.
She's going to trim off all that fat.
Right.
And there goes all your spice rub. But meat, protein, with herbs and spices on it, browned by the Maillard reaction, is glorious. So trim off almost all of it. If you have to, leave 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch. A lot of that will melt, and you'll get some crusty brown fat flavor on the outside. But I get it almost all off. Now, you're going to lose a lot of weight that way.
Yeah.
The other thing I really recommend, and again, I can just hear your readers screaming at me, is take the bone off. Now, think about this. You're going to put that rub on there, and that surface is going to brown. And brown is beautiful. That brown crust is fabulous. Everybody loves that brown crust. When you have bones on a prime rib, 1/3 of the surface is covered by bone. Take the bones off, cinch it up round into a round tube with string, so it cooks evenly from all sides. That bone is going to block heat. It's like the heat shield on a space shuttle.
Yep.
It's going to block the heat from penetrating, and the meat next to the bone is going to be rarer or raw than the center. So if you take the bone off, it'll cook much more evenly, and you've got much more surface coated with your rub. Now, what are you going to do with the bones? You're not going to waste them. I mean, everybody loves gnawing on these bones.
Yeah.
Put them aside. That's a whole meal. If you buy, I got 20-some people to feed. I buy a 7-bone prime rib roast. That's a lot of meat.
What's the raw weight on that?
I got it right here. Stand by. Stand by. I've been averaging them over the years, and I know the weight. I sorry to keep you waiting here. I have it all calculated. Here it is. Okay. Here's a breakdown of a full 7-bone, 28-day, wet-aged rib roast that I cooked last year.
All right.
It was 14.5 pounds at $14 a pound, or $203. $200.
Not bad.
2.5 pounds of that were the bones, which I set aside, and I smoked those for another meal for just my wife and myself. Fantastic meal. Beef back rib bones are fantastic.
Delicious.
They're not as meaty as short ribs, which have big chunks of meat, but they're really delicious. Lots of meat in between the bones, and gnawing on them is a great meal. And that 7-bone slab will be enough for 2, possibly 3. So you got a whole nother meal waiting for you there. So 2.5 pounds of bones come off. That's about 16% of the total volume. I trimmed off 2 pounds of fat out of my 14.5 pounds.
Wow.
2 pounds of fat, some of which I froze for use in making ground beef or hamburgers.
Right.
So you can save some of that aside, and some of which I melted and then froze, and I use that to baste a steak. Aha!
Nice.
Call it beef love. So there's another 14% in the weight of the meat coming off as fat. Little bits of scrap and other stuff. There was about 1/4 pound of that. Now, there's 2 main muscles in a prime rib. There's the spinalis dorsi, which is a curved muscle on the outside surface that almost always overcooks because it's right out there on the outer edge, and it's very heavily marbled.
Yeah.
And then there's a thick layer of fat underneath it. And then there's the longissimus dorsi, which is the big long tube that makes the eye of the prime rib.
Right.
Now, if you can get away with it, if you've got a small crowd, I like to peel that spinalis off. If you peel that baby off, that is the very best muscle on the steer. It is like Wagyu beef. It's so heavily marbled, and it almost always overcooks if you leave it on there and cook it.
Agreed.
If you peel it off, it comes off on a whole 7-bone slab. It comes off, it looks like a giant salmon fillet. It's tapered and pointy at one end and thick and fat at the other, and you can roll it, you can cut it into steaks. It's just absolutely fabulous meat, and that's a whole nother meal. So you've got the bones off, you've got the spinalis off, or the rib cap off, and now you have the center tube, the eye of the rib eye, and that's of the 14.5 pounds, it's just under 7 pounds.
Wow, half.
So it's half the weight.
Yep.
We've gotten rid of the bones, we've gotten rid of the fat, a little trim, we peeled the spinalis off, and now we're down to about half the original weight. But that is a tube of pure glory. And that is the one you cover with your spice rub. I make a little paste out of it, mix it with a little water or a little fat, rub it up, and then you reverse sear it. You start it indirect, low and slow, or on a smoker, low and slow.
Yep.
Bring it up to about 120 on the internal temp, pull it off, move it over to your grill, or if it's on a grill, move it over to the direct heat side, and sear it, roll it, sear it, roll it, sear it, roll it. Leave the lid up on this sear process. You're not trying to cook the interior anymore.
Just brown.
You've already cooked the interior. You've cooked the interior. Now you're cooking the exterior. You're crusting it up. You're browning it up. You're getting that Maillard reaction. And when you slice into that baby, it's going to be 130 degrees in the center, and it's going to be medium rare, edge to edge. You won't have this rainbow effect, which you often get on a prime rib. You often get, there you got that. Yep. I just sent you that. You're good, man. I just sent him that 5 minutes before we went on air.
I tried.
That's one of my prime ribs. You can see Santa leering after it over there. There is, often you get this beautiful dark brown crust, and then there's a thin layer of brown, and then there's a layer of tan, and then there's a layer of pink, and finally it's medium rare in the center. About half the volume is medium rare. If you reverse sear, Patio Daddio calls it redneck sous vide.
Yeah.
You'll get that fabulous color. Show that to him again if you can. If you didn't see that picture, that is just glorious. Now, that particular picture, you can see the rib cap. I left it on. But if I can, I pull it off. Thing is, I got to feed about 20, so I leave the rib cap on. But there's that thick layer of fat under there, which everybody hates.
Well,
so when you're all done,
whatever.
You've gone from about $14-15 a pound to about $25 a pound.
Yeah, right.
But you have 2 more meals sitting there waiting for you.
Meathead from AmazingRibs.com joining me here on the show. Meathead, stand by just for a few minutes, and then we will go ahead and get into the tenderloin talk, which is something that I know you wanted to get into this evening. Maybe a couple gift suggestions. I don't want to do lightning round with you as well again. Maybe a new lightning. Did we do lightning round last time, Meathead? I forget. Yeah? All right. Let me talk to you quickly about Southside Market and Barbecue. Attention, folks in the business of barbecue. Established in 1882, Southside Market and Barbecue, the oldest joint in Texas, and they have been owned and operated by the same family for 3 generations. They offer premium Central Texas barbecue products, slow smoked over real wood, shipping, distributing, manufacturing sausages for companies across the U.S. From food trucks to multi-chain restaurants, Southside Sausage can be on your menu too. All meats are processed in the on-site USDA-inspected facility, a trusted partner with a focus on quality and authenticity. Wholesale options available, shipping nationwide via FedEx. Food service distribution through Cisco, U.S. Foods, and Martin Foods, some of the biggest names in that industry. Co-packaging capable from research and development to package completion. They can follow your recipe, or they can help you develop something right from scratch. Private label opportunities available as well. Visit SouthsideMarket.com for more information, and while you're there, plopping in things in your cart, as you get ready to check out, use promo code BBQ Central, all one word and lowercase, BBQ Central. That gets you 10% off all your online orders. SouthsideMarket.com, that's SouthsideMarket.com. We're back with more Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. Stick around, be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rampey.
This portion of the show being brought to you by CookinPellets.com, your #1 source for quality wood pellets. For all your pellet-driven cookers, the Traegers, the Green Mountain Grills, the Cook Shacks, you name it, they can take Cookin' Pellets. Visit CookinPellets.com to purchase or for more information and flavors. You can also buy and visit Amazon.com to purchase as well. And we are talking with Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. Did we do lightning round last month, Meathead?
Briefly, but I gotta go back.
Yeah.
Southside Market.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah. Elgin,
Their
Texas.
sausages are fun. I've got great pictures of that, where they make the sausages.
Yeah.
Just miles and miles of sausage hanging, smoked, giant walk-in smokers, and it's really good. And of course, they are located in the place where, in fact, they may be where the term Texas hot guts originated.
Yeah, they are.
These are hot. They call them hot guts because they're in a natural casing of intestines. Don't worry, they're clean. There's no poop in there.
Right.
And they're just mostly beef. I think they're mostly beef in their sausage.
All beef.
And just a lot of fun. And it's a cool place. It's just, if you're down that way, it's just another one of these great old Texas barbecue joints. Love that place.
All right, Meathead, so let's talk about tenderloin and Chateaubriand, if I said that right.
Chateaubriand.
Chateaubriand.
Yep. Okay. Now, tenderloin, we always want to qualify this. The difference between tenderloin and loin.
Yeah, big difference.
The prime rib is the loin muscle. And the loin muscle, we talk about gird your loins, and people are talking about in their thighs.
Right.
But that's not the loin muscle. The loin muscle runs along your back. It's the long tubular muscle on either side of your spine. You got two of them. That's the spinalis dorsi. It starts at your shoulder and runs to your hips. And then on a steer, same thing. It starts in the chuck, in the shoulder, and runs all the way to the hips through the prime rib, which goes to the end of the rib cage, and then into the sirloin, which is below it. And it's a great muscle. The tenderloin lies inside the rib cage.
Mm-hmm.
The loin lies on top of the ribs. The tenderloin lies inside the rib cage. And it is the muscle on both the steer and the hog that gets the least amount of work. And people often mix them up. They'll say, well, I'm cooking a tenderloin and it's 10 pounds. No, if it's 10 pounds, it's a loin. And it's a leaner, chewier muscle on a hog. On a hog, it's very, very tender. Similar to the steer. On the steer, the tenderloin can be 6, 7, 8 pounds, and it's a very tender muscle. And that's the muscle they make the filet mignon from. And everybody knows what a filet mignon is. This thing looks kind of like a baseball bat. It's thin on one end where the handle of the bat might be. It only doesn't have that round handle. And it swells towards the other end where it's got kind of a knobby head.
Uh-huh.
And the center is pretty uniform in thickness. So if you want the Chateaubriand, which is often served in restaurants as Chateaubriand for 2, although if you trim a tenderloin properly, you can feed 3 or 4 easily out of it, again, depending on the size of the muscle and the size of the animal. And it's about 3 or 4 inches thick. And if you trim off the fat knobby end and the thin, one is called the head or the nose, and the other is called the tail. If you trim off the nose and tail, you've got this perfect tube right out of the center that's the Chateaubriand. Now, you can cook that Chateaubriand as a roast, or you can slice it up into filets mignon.
Yep.
But cooking it as a roast is really nice, and that's what I'm doing this year. I've been cooking prime rib for the family. Every year we go to my niece's house, and I've been doing 7-bone prime rib, and it's always been enough to feed about 15, 16 adults.
Wow. And
there are a bunch of little kids running around. Well, guess what? Little buggers have grown up, and they want steak. I can't get away with giving them burger or pasta anymore.
Right.
I've got to. They want in on the good stuff. So this year I've ordered 3 tenderloins, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim them down to a Chateaubriand. And now what a lot of restaurants will do is they'll take the taper end and they'll fold it over and they'll tie it up.
Cheat.
So you can essentially make that tube longer.
Yeah, right.
And they may take the knobby end and trim off some of the knob so you get longer still. I'll chop the knob off and set it aside, and I'll pound it flat with my fist and get about a 1.5-inch thick filet mignon steak. And it's a pretty good sized steak. I can slice it like I would a flank steak. Never seen anybody else do that but me, but it really works nicely. The other end, where it tapers off, you can trim that off, and you can get a couple of small fillets out of that. And the restaurants will also serve that, and they'll call it tenderloin tips. And it very nice, very tender meat. But you don't want to cook it at the same time as the Chateaubriand because it's skinnier and it'll overcook. Unless you've got somebody in the crowd who likes well done. I'll chop that up and I'll use it either for stir fry or for a stew meat. It's pretty expensive for stew meat. But you can use it for stir fry, stroganoff, boeuf bourguignon, or you can grind it up for burgers along with some of the fat that you have left over from your prime rib or your brisket. So there's also a very skinny, long, slender muscle that runs along the side of this called the chain. When you get a tenderloin, it usually comes in a cryovac plastic bag, vacuum sealed.
Yep. And
you can cut that open, and it often smells funny. Those cryovac bags, they call it the cryovac stink.
Yeah.
There's a kind of a goofy smell inside there, and it aerates out. It usually aerates right out. Cut her open, drain off the juices, and start peeling off all the fat. And there's a good deal of silver skin on this baby. And silver skin is it shrinks. And when it shrinks, it'll curl the meat. So you got to get the silver skin off. You really need a sharp knife. I love using my fish fillet knife.
Sure.
I use a $19 Rapala fillet knife I buy at Walmart or wherever, and it's really wicked sharp and wicked thin and flexible. And it's great for getting silver skin off. And just trim it all off, make it nice and clean, and then rub it up. And again, I like to reverse sear it, starting indirect, get it up to about 120, 125, move it over direct heat, lift the lid, roll it around until it's dark brown on all sides, and pull it off at 130, 135 at the most. And everybody gets a perfectly cut piece the same size, and very tender, very juicy. It's not as fatty as your prime rib. It doesn't have as much marbling as prime rib. So it doesn't have the richness and thickness and lusciousness of a prime rib. I prefer prime rib, but a lot of people prefer tenderloin because it's more tender.
Let me ask you one question. As far as in regards to filet mignon, overrated, right? Kind of tasteless. I mean, certainly tender, but geez, I mean, even to this day, when I talk to people about what's your favorite cut of steak, and people will always, a lot of people continue to say filet, and I'm like, wow, it's overpriced, it's flavorless, it's certainly tender, but I mean, I can make a lot of things tender too. And obviously, I'm not a fan, but I mean, there's better cuts.
Taste is a matter of taste.
Yes.
But
when there's no taste, Meathead, there's no taste.
I'm being politic here.
Right.
I really had to struggle this year in switching from prime rib to tenderloin for those reasons.
Yeah, I bet.
Much prefer the prime rib. I much prefer the richness, the fattiness. There is taste. It's not as rich and tasty. Correct. It's very tender.
Right.
I'm just, what sometimes happens with tenderloin, especially if you get a cheap cut, is it can have a slight undertone of a liver flavor, and that I do not like. I write about what causes that on our website. If you've encountered a liver flavor in your beef, I can explain it to you. I'm not going to get into it now, but I do explain it on our website. I think it's going to be a big hit this year, and I've got, I think I ordered 4 of them.
Oof. Wow.
And I don't know how, I'm going to wait to see how they trim down after, because I don't know what, when you order them, you don't know what size they're going to be when they come in. And if I have extra, I'll just freeze it. And I think everybody's going to be happy. It's now, if you really want to go to town, what you do with that tenderloin is you make duxelles, which is a chopped mushroom mash. It's and you can coat this thing with duxelles, and then you wrap it in phyllo dough. And when you bake that, you get beef Wellington.
Oh.
And beef Wellington often served a very rich wine sauce.
Right.
Classic dish. the welling, the puff pastry. You know what puff pastry? How wonderful it is when it's cooked. It's almost like croissant. And with the mushrooms on the fillet, you get a lot of flavor from the mushrooms and the butter they're cooked in. So that's another way to finesse them. It's a pretty elaborate process, but you can go that route if you want.
All right, so if you have any questions about tenderloins or the Chateaubriand that we talked about, go to AmazingRibs.com. Obviously, a lot of things that you can search and find information-wise there. We are coming quickly to the crescendo of gift holidays, which is Christmas. So let me ask you two separate questions. What do you want for barbecue Christmas this year, and what would you recommend if somebody's asking, Meathead, what should I buy my live fire lover this year?
Gosh, I'm full of advice for everybody, what you should buy. Nobody has ever asked me what I want.
And I know, like, you and I are kind of in similarly unique positions where we probably have a lot of stuff that maybe a lot of people
everything
want.
I need.
Yeah, but, you know, like for me, I want a Grillworks setup from Grillworks Ben, because it's like the ultimate live fire outdoor thing that, you know, if I want to complete me feeling like a man, that's, you know, that's definitely what I want.
I'd like to have one of those too. I don't think you can get me anything that I want. I got everything that I want. And it's a business expense. If I see something interesting, I spend it. You know, I've got everything I want. But I think it's always, if you're buying for somebody else, or if you're trying to decide what you want and you want to leave a hint for Santa, I mean, you can never go wrong by requesting a great thermometer.
Right.
Unless you have a great thermometer already, there's a bunch of really great if you're a charcoal or live fire log pit burner, you can't go wrong with Barbecue Gurus. But they've got a 10% sale on our 15% off to members of our Pitmaster Club, 10% off on my Facebook page for their new CyberQ cloud product, which is pretty cool. There are some other products like that which really help you control your temperature, so you can set it and forget it. A great instant read thermometer. You can't go wrong with one of those. I like gloves. These chamois gloves. And I'll pick up my turkey with the leather glove. Then I come inside and wash my hands, and eventually it gets pretty grody, and I need a new set. So you can never go wrong with a nice pair of those leather welder's gloves. What else? I like to start my fire with those little paraffin charcoal starters.
Little Weber cubes,
Yeah, that's not a very expensive gift, a stocking stuffer, but a box of those is always a nice thing to have on hand.
I just thought of something I know I could get you that you would want that you don't have.
Oh.
What if I found somebody that could write that book for you? Like that? About that?
You know, all right. You keep talking. I want to read you something.
Okay.
Go ahead. Take me a minute to find it.
Well, I was going to just set up a quick lightning round again with you because it's fun. So do you want to do that first before you read me something? Or do you have it up and you're ready to go?
I was reading. I have actually changed my life a little bit. And one of the things I've learned to do is to read for pleasure now.
Oh.
I never, you know, I always read business and cookbooks and stuff like that. And I've been reading novels for about 5 years now. I read quite a lot of them. And lately I've been going back and reading some of the classics. And
like Catcher in the Rye?
I just finished Garden of Eden.
Oh, my favorite.
I mean, East of Eden. East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Just finished it last night, Garden of Eden. And about a month ago, I finished Huck Finn by Mark Twain. And the last paragraph of Huck Finn reads as follows. Tom's most well now and got his bullet around his neck on a watch guard for a watch and is always seeing what time it is, so there ain't nothing more to write about. And I'm rotten glad of it, because if I'd have knowed what a trouble it was to make a book, I wouldn't have tackled it, and I ain't going to do it no more. Where the hell was this guy,
Look at
Mark
you.
Twain, when I started writing a book?
Right, no doubt.
If
Well,
I'd known what trouble it was, I ain't gonna do it no more.
I'm not going to let you go through that thing as we talk about book number 3, 5, 6, 7 years from now. You can believe that.
Christ.
So
I don't know how Steve Rakeland does it.
well,
Or Dr. Barbecue.
you're right. We don't have enough time to talk about why, but maybe next month we can talk about why you got pulled into this. And I know why those other guys like to do it. So, Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. All right, quick lightning round, Meathead.
Whatever you want, Chief.
All right, hold on. Here we go. Let me get the music going. Okay, lightning round. I'm going to ask you a question you just right off the top of your head. And don't say both. That's so lame. All right. Ina Gartner, Giada De Laurentiis.
Oh, Giada.
Pellet. Oh, by the way, Meathead, that is the wrong answer.
Nah.
Absolutely the wrong answer. Pellet or Offset?
Well, what am I asking? What do I want from her?
I don't. Pellet or Offset?
I have both.
Yes. It's not that hard. Meathead, come on. You're like Steven Reichland.
A good Offset.
Brisket or beef ribs?
Oh, beef ribs.
Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Jack Nicklaus or Tiger Woods?
Nicholas, because he's a Phi Gamma Delta, and so am I.
Nicholas is the biggest asshole on the face of the earth. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Maybe I am too.
Money or fame?
I have fame. I need money.
The truth or another's feelings?
The truth or what?
Another's feelings.
Another what?
Another's feelings. Taking into account somebody else's feelings. The truth or somebody else's feelings.
The truth or another's feelings.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a technique. I mean, I have to find out what their feelings really are before I decide whether to tell them the truth. So I'll divert to their feelings.
All right. And finally, open pit or sweet baby race?
Sweet baby Ray, because Dave Raymond's the best.
All right. Well, there you go. That's Meathead, AmazingRibs.com, doing the lightning round, trying his best. He got Giada wrong, and he got Jack Nicklaus wrong. I'll share that Jack Nicklaus story with you, by the way, off air. But,
why would you not choose Giada?
yeah, because Ina Garten is like the biggest catch on the face of the earth. We'll argue that again at another time.
There's no doubt she's probably a better cook than Giada.
I'm telling you, there's none. It's not even up for. It's kind of my trick question to the world, but nevertheless. So here's Meathead Meathead, AmazingRibs.com. Meathead, have a great holiday if I don't talk to you in between, and we will see you in 2019.
And to all the Centralites, happy holidays, happy New Year, and if I don't see you till 2019, we'll see you then.
There he is, Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. How about that? There's Meathead right there.
All guests appear via the Traeger Grills hotline. Yummy.
All right, let me talk to you quickly about the Barbecue Guru. They believe outdoor cooking should be simple and fun because it can be. Monolith is the world's first temperature-controlled smoker with a built-in power draft fan. That means smarter temperature control, greater freedom with automatic pit temperature control. Easily choose the cooking time, temperature, and let the Monolith do the work of a sous chef or barbecue pitmaster. With minimal effort, you now have oven-like precision at the grill, and you can serve the tastiest, juiciest meals each and every time. Visit bbqguru.com or call them 800-288-GURU. We're back to wrap the first hour. Stick around. Be right back.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the Barbecue Central Show.
Wow. I mean, who would have thought that lightning rounds would cause such consternation and thought? I mean, just whatever's on the top of your head, it's fun. You take too long and it becomes long in the tooth. Anyway, we thank Meathead for joining us the second Tuesday of every month. If you missed the prime rib talk, go back and get that. Also, circle back for the tenderloin and Chateaubriand. And the lightning round, which ended up being fun. I mean, if you're a fan of the show, you know I heart Ina. Right, John? All right, we will be back right after this for the second hour. You're listening, watching Barbecue Central show right here on the Barbecue Central Radio Network.
This is Jim Minion from Two Loose Screws. I'm listening to Barbecue Central.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish! What?
He ate sushi or wiener.
Oh, listen, Liberty, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
Welcome to the second hour, everybody. Here we go. You have found the fun and frivolity of the Barbecue Central show. It's a show that happens every week, live on Tuesdays from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're getting this for the first time on a podcast, make time on a Tuesday to tune in live and see how it goes down. I mean, certainly your recording is giving you that sneak peek, if you will. But it's not as fun as being around the gang and seeing what could happen because it's a live show. Somebody doesn't answer. I have a technical issue. Who knows? It's always fun to be involved in that when it's happening. Certainly it's new to you on the pod, but you know what I'm saying. Come on. Check me out live. Check me out live. 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then on podcast, hour number 1 goes out Wednesday. Hour number 2 goes out Thursday. And the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less comes out every Friday. So 3 days of podcast content, as it has been for the majority of 2018, if not all of 2018. Don't forget, you can follow me socially on Instagram and Twitter at BBQ Central Show. And also friend me up on the Facebooks or give me a like or whatever you do on Facebook. /BBQ Central Show is where you can find me there. Still to come on the show this evening, David Qualls from the American Dream BBQ Team is running for the Kansas City Barbecue Society Board of Director and or the seats that are currently open for vote. So we'll be getting to him in about 12 minutes from now. And then helping me close the show is Bryan Crawford from Crawford's Barbecue. And we'll be talking about his product called Pit Spritz, hoping to make your barbecue ribs and or pork a little bit better than it is right now. And it doesn't have to necessarily be for competition. You can use it in the backyard, as I'm sure Bryan will get into. He is a competition cook, so there is probably some type of an efficiency component on how the whole rib or the Pit Spritz was born. But once again, we'll talk with Bryan in a couple minutes about that. Actually, more like 30 minutes from now. Hey, don't forget, as I mention each and every week, I missed last week, but this week I will be back making my regular real radio appearance as guest on the John Cupo Show. Locally here in Cleveland, you can find him within a 3-4 county radius, Lake, Ashtabula, Cuyahoga, and so forth, 101.5 FM dial and 1330 AM dial, or if you are not near any of those and you still want to hear me be more of a contributor / guest versus host, WINTradio.com. That's WIN as in November, T radio.com. That will get you to the live audio feed on the internet. I usually come in around 7:30 and it runs about 60 minutes or so. Usually out of there around 8:30 because they have a movie critic that comes in and closes out the show with them. So if you're wondering what it sounds like when I'm being asked questions and how I answer barbecue and grilling related topics, Tune in each and every Friday to the John Cupo Show. Again, that's 101.5 FM and 1330 AM. Local here to Cleveland, and when I mean local, pretty local to Willoughby or 20 miles out. Or forego all that nonsense, wintradio.com. Got an email from Jeffrey Stone. It says, "Good evening, Greg. Being an avid Centralite, I have had the pleasure of listening to your show for several years. And I have to say that here as of late, your show has been particularly stellar. Most notably, I am referring to the shows with the foraging guy, Jeremy Yamansky, and owner of Larder Delicatessen, by the way. I'm adding that ad-lib in myself. Pat LaFrieda's most recent interview, Sam the cooking guy, and the regulars to include Meathead and Steven Reichlin in their Thanksgiving takes. Not that the other segments haven't been great, but these particularly seem to stand out for me. Additionally, the Michael Simon extra interview rocked it. He didn't come off as a celebrity, but instead seemed like the type of guy with whom you could sit down and have a beer with. I could have listened to Pat LaFrieda and Jeremy Yamansky talk for hours, as they were totally engaging and interesting as all get out. Your A game has been elevated to A+ in my book, for whatever that might be worth to you. Merry Christmas to you and your family. I look forward to another year of entertaining and informative shows. With regards, Jeffrey Stone, Grandpa's Pride Barbecue." Jeffrey, thank you. To be known, Jeffrey is a long-time Centralite when he says that he's been listening to the show for several years. Certainly that is verifiable. He does send me email communications from time to time. I think I've read his stuff on the air in the past as well, but certainly appreciate your weighing in. The one thing that I have to totally agree with you on, Jeffrey, is how great Jeremy Yamansky from Larder was and how much knowledge. Look, let's be honest. What might have been your first reaction when I said, hey, I have a foraging expert coming on the show? We're going to be talking about mushrooms and all of this other stuff. You probably were a little hesitant on if you were going to be listening for the long haul during that segment. Because, maybe foraging seems a little nerdy or something that you might not be into, or it's not live fire or whatever. And while the show continues by and large to be a barbecue and grilling show, it's not always about barbecue and grilling. Henceforth, me bringing Jeremy Yamansky in and talking about his expertise and breadth of knowledge in the mushroom foraging industry. Widely considered to be an expert in the land, not the land like we say Cleveland. That's, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but recently Cleveland started being called the land. I'm saying like the United States. From a countrywide perspective, Jeremy is widely considered to be a top authority on mushrooms. And the greater Cleveland area has, I think he said, 132 different species of mushrooms growing all right here, second only to the Pacific Northwest. And certainly they have a climate that's ripe to grow probably 7 times more different mushrooms than we would get here in the Cleveland area, or at least surrounding areas. So he was absolutely spectacular, and I am already remiss that I have not rebooked him for a second foray into the Barbecue Central Show jungle, but I will be doing that because I hope to be getting a nice lunch over at Larder at some point this week, if not tomorrow, and that's sketchy. Definitely Thursday looking pretty good. Friday certainly looks pretty good. If not either of those, Sunday could be looking really good because we'll be taking in a Cavaliers game. So Jeremy Yamansky was great. Pat LaFrieda hit mixed reviews up front. Then we had an issue in the second interview with him because we couldn't connect. But the third installment of Pat LaFrieda was absolutely spectacular. In fact, I got a Twitter from at Sirius J that said that, in his opinion, And he had actually done an interview with Pat LaFrieda himself at some point. And I would love to hear that. But as someone who had interviewed Pat LaFrieda himself and then heard my other Pat LaFrieda interviews, he said the third one was absolutely the definitive Pat LaFrieda interview. So that was some pretty high praise from a guy that's got a pretty big following out there in the Twitter sphere. And, of course, the regulars are doing what regulars do. Steven Reichlin doing great. Meathead, obviously, he was just on, did great prime rib talk, and we talked about food safety with food savers and botulism. I didn't know botulism could just fall out of the sky. I like to live in a naive world with my head in the proverbial sand. If my head is in the sand, maybe it'll stay away from the botulism that is dropping out of the sky. Did anybody else know that botulism drops out of the sky like that? Like, I don't know if it just necessarily synthesizes out of thin air, but bacteria is all around us, as Meathead said. That's a little unnerving to me. I'm not a germaphobe by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought botulism had to exist on something in order for you to, like, cross-contaminate, and now you have botulism kind of a thing. But, you know, fun stuff for you to learn here on the show. As I said, it's not always a live fire barbecue grilling show, but most of the time it is. And now you know botulism could just drop on your food and you could be screwed at any given point. Thanks again to Jeffrey Stone for weighing in on his like of the show recently. Thank you, Jeff. Let me talk to you quickly about Green Mountain Grills before we get to Dave Qualls from the American Dream BBQ Team and why he's running for KCBS. Green Mountain Grills, they offer some of the best pellet cookers out there on the market today. 3 different sizes to choose from. If you are into football right now and you're really big into the tailgating, of course, you want to look at the Davy Crockett. This one is extremely portable, fits in your trucks, vans, and SUVs. If you don't have access to a traditional power outlet, no worries. Just plug it into the 12-volt adapter that you have in your specific vehicle. You get that great wood-fired flavor. Why? Because the Davy Crockett runs on pellets. All Green Mountain Grills are pellet-driven cookers. And you're not sacrificing a tremendous amount of capacity for its portability and convenience. Now, if you want something a little bit more patio-friendly and decorative, you want to look at the Daniel Boone and the Jim Bowie options. Daniel Boone is mid-size. Jim Bowie is your big monster. Both of these can accommodate that high heat pizza oven insert that I like to talk about each and every week. So if you're going to get one, you know, if you're on the fence on buying the bigger one, saving a couple $100 on the medium sized one, don't ever live like that. You're setting yourself up for a lifetime of regret. And for just a couple $100, you can increase your cooking capacity dramatically. And again, it will accept the pizza oven insert as well. Now, I have both. The Daniel Boone for me is more pizza oven relegated. But if I need to rip that pizza oven insert out, I do it. And now I have 2 great size pellet cookers to do wings on one and ribs on another, whatever I have going that day. They also offer sauces and rubs and pellets, obviously, to fire those cookers. So check them out online, greenmountaingrills.com. That's greenmountaingrills.com. And check out what they have. If you have any questions, shoot them a call, shoot them an email. Their support is great. And we're looking to line up Jason Baker, owner of Green Mountain Grills, here sooner than later for some big announcements. We're back with David Qualls from the American Dream BBQ Team right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
The only show giving you a monthly visit from a doctor of barbecue. A man actually named Meathead. The author of a barbecue Bible. Bloggers, reviewers, competitors, and manufacturers by the dozens. It's the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show is being brought to you by Smithfield. If If you haven't checked out smokingwithsmithfield.com, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go ahead. Head on over there. See if they still have openings for that committed cooks program. 500 spots. I believe there was a small handful left last I checked. So head on over to smokingwithsmithfield.com. Also, January 8th, we will reveal the Smithfield Grant winners. Not sure exactly who we'll have from Smithfield on that, but if you're interested in seeing if your event is being considered or was considered, and now we'll have access to the Smithfield Grant, tune in January 8th, and you will figure it out. Again, that website is smithfield.com, or smokingwithsmithfield.com. All right, my first guest in the second hour, longtime friend of the show. As a promoter, he has put on his own successful KCBS-sanctioned barbecue competition. As a cook, he has cooked and won some of the biggest events that cooks like to take down before they call it a career. And tonight he is telling us why he's deciding to make a run for the KCBS Board of Directors. So let's go ahead and race to the Traeger Grills hotline and welcome back friend of the show, David Qualls. Hold on, David. I hit the wrong button. David, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fabulous, David. Appreciate you making time, as always, here for the show. Now,
well, thanks for having me.
You know, a huge part of me wants to talk you out of doing this, Dave, and certainly there's no guarantee that running obviously gets you elected, and I know you get that. But as you look through the history of this show, folks who show up running or hoping to run for the KCBS board kind of get voted in to the KCBS board, and you hear from the current members, or at least some of them, that being on the board is a thankless job and you're constantly taking flack and all of this other stuff. So are you really ready to put yourself in front of all that?
Well, I'm no stranger to being a public officer. And so, you know, you've got to be thick-skinned. You've got to take business as business and personal as personal. And so, you know, I'm ready for it. Yes.
How many seats are up?
5.
So that's a pretty decent number, right?
5 seats, and I think 9, 10, or 11 candidates running at this point, yes.
Do you know how many are up for a re-election?
Just one, I believe. 2 termed out, and then I believe there were 2 resignations to fill unexpired terms, and so only one member that is eligible as an incumbent, I believe. That's only one.
All right, so just
I think that's Arlie Bragg's seat.
Arlie Bragg, okay. Make a note of that. Okay, so just from a high level first, and then we'll dig into some of the points, because I know you sent me some graphs and stuff that we can show as well. What do you feel uniquely qualifies you to ask for somebody's vote for this Kansas City Barbecue Society's board?
Well, I've cooked pretty active since 2012, over 200 contests, 30 grands. I've put on contests. I'm a longtime chairman of a very large trade association, so I understand what it takes to represent. I understand the issues behind being a nonprofit organization and what you have to do as your mission to your members. I want to do this to promote the sport of barbecue. I feel like that there are needs of the membership that needs to be addressed. We need to promote and do something to enhance and fix the communication transparency problems right now that has existed in the last couple of years between leadership and membership. And then first and final and most importantly is we've got to do something to stabilize the fiscal responsibility in the future of this organization. Barbecue's getting expensive. A lot of money's being put into to KCBS, through what I read in their tax returns to promote barbecue, but I don't see that coming back to teams. I don't see it coming to contest organizers. I don't know where it is again, so you're just going to try and make barbecue great again.
Look at love the hat, Dave.
Thanks.
I do hear certain things brought up each and every year. Maybe this is the first time I've actually heard about, fiscal or fiscal viability and, financials and stuff like this. But some of the other stuff we've kind of heard. I mean, are they legitimate concerns, or are they things that people are just continuing to regurgitate because they heard it the last time and somebody's saying, well, this didn't get addressed again?
Well, you see things through minutes of the meetings, and you see things at contests and stuff that makes you wonder what's going on, and you see large sponsorships, but then you see contests going away. But if you dig down into it a little deeper, because KCBS is a nonprofit organization, their tax returns have to be published. And based on those published tax returns, their last 5 years, they brought in $8 million in gross receipts, and basically have only kept about 4% of that money. And then the last 2 years, for the first time that I can find in published returns, they've actually lost money on their largest sums of income coming in. The last revenue figures of 2017, $1.7 million in gross receipts, and posted a $133,000 loss. If this was that Tom Hanks movie, I'd be saying, show me the money. I mean, what did we do with it? Because we've seen contests dwindle, we've seen membership decline, but we've seen this large surge of revenue coming in, yet we're posting a loss. And but on the tax returns, and when it shows benefits paid to members, that's always zero. So what are we doing to promote barbecue, which is the mission statement of KCBS? And I'm not attacking KCBS. I'm attacking the system. What's the engine in this train that's causing this problem? Because we as cooks, we see that, we see contests dying that we're having a great time cooking at. We see membership dwindling. We see these issues of failed websites and poor communication and supposedly a lack of staff. But when you look at a large amount of money, a $1.7 million just in 1 year coming in lost money, where did that money go? What was it used for? Because it obviously wasn't used to promote barbecue at the level that we could see as cooks and teams and judges and organizers and literally spectators of the sport.
So I don't want to put you in a speculatory position here, but I agree. I mean, $1.75 million. I mean, if the show brought $1.75 million in 1 year, I mean, that would be great. But sure. And then somehow I was able to finagle $133,000 loss. I mean, I would imagine a lot of people would want to figure out where not only 1.75 million of that went, but an additional 133 in the hole. So, are there salaries that board members get, or salaries that people that work in the KCBS corporate office get, or are they really spending a lot of money on advertising or something like this?
Well, I don't know. The tax return publishes, the salaries, and the salaries for the board do not seem out of line. It's not like anybody's making $250,000 a year answering the phone at KCBS. But what bothers me is you can look into, like 2017 for a chance, other expenses, which is not expenses specifically identified in their tax returns, $1.4 million. Almost 70% of the money that came in went back out with no explanation on the tax return. But KCBS won't publish a financial statement. Their financial reports in the minutes of their meeting are not published, other than just posted a financial report given. And so, it leads us to what are they spending the money on? We know they bought a big new building. We know that now they're going to sell that building. And to me, it's like they've used our money for a failed real estate venture transaction. There's nothing against a nonprofit owning a piece of real estate.
Sure.
But if they wagered everything that they had plus their cash and threw the baby out with the bathwater, that doesn't make sense. It really bothers me that we're losing contests, we're losing membership, yet every month when I read the minutes of these committees, the membership committee's talking about, well, we're going to do a phone blast or we're going to do an email blast. No one addresses the fact that membership's falling. Now, we're all about publishing how many Twitter responses we had. But that doesn't do anything. Yet at the same time, we're losing memberships. We're exponentially creating more judges. We're using judges as a revenue tool. And It's been no mystery. When I ran for the board 4 years ago and was probably too new to be known, one of the biggest problems then was judging. Then when this technology came out to show what table you landed on and judge averages, you know, the train left the station with there's a problem in judging. Tables of death, tables of angels, and I know they've done a lot of work from outside help. A volunteer, Mark Gibbs, put together a program to try and seat judges and balance them. Not any technology spent with this millions of dollars of income, but just a layman member trying to make barbecue better that has tried to help the system. But until they actually spend some real money and quit just churning judges for profit, that part of the program's not going to help. And anybody that drops $1,500 to cook a contest thinks they did a halfway good job just to get hammered on something, and knowing in the back of their mind there's a problem with judging. When reps walk up to you and say, hey, I'm sorry, but you hit that table of death today. I mean, what else do you have to do but be an armchair quarterback? Because our leadership is not talking to us one-on-one. Our leadership talks at us, but they don't talk to us.
David Qualls joining me here on the show. His website, by the way, that shows his running platforms, davidqualls.com, Qualls, davidqualls.com. All right, so let's go ahead and hit on some of those platforms. I have like 3 or so that you had sent me graphs on, so I can flash those up if you want to maybe start with team participation, because you've mentioned that a couple times. Okay.
Our team participation has went down every year here lately. You can see in 2013 was pretty much the peak that we had 40 teams average per contest, and it has just fell down to as low as 35 teams. If you look at the graph that shows the red, that one right there, you'll see in 2018, take away the Royal and the Sams, the average number of teams per contest across the nation was 35 teams, and that's with the number of contests that fell off. Yet the board wants to raise the number of teams for Team of the Year to qualify and publish in their minutes to benefit bigger contests. Well, it's the backbone. It's this small 35-team Lions Club, Chamber of Commerce, Red Cross type group that's the backbone of this deal. And even by changing the Team of the Year issue, which has got its own problems and needs an overhaul itself, this does nothing to help it. The board just makes knee-jerk decisions, and it took a hell of a grassroots campaign again this year to get them to lay that on the table again at the 11th hour.
All right, next up is contests per year.
Contests are falling off. And they can, from a peak in 2015 of 483 contests, we're down to 422. And, they'll say, well, we didn't have Sam's this year, but then you picked up other contests. The bottom line is Sam's took the place of a lot of contests when they came in, but contests are down. Team participation is down. It's running hand in hand. If it was just a contest problem, team participation would have been up in the average number of teams per contest. But they're both falling off, and surprise, membership's falling off at the same time. But there's a strange integer in that series too, and it has to do with the number of judges.
Do you buy in at all to the international help of contests that they kind of bolster the overall number, or should that not be necessarily considered?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily considered in effect, because contests went down with the addition of all these increased international contests. And first and foremost, don't get me wrong, I think the whole international program is great.
Sure.
The barbecue is going worldwide, and I believe that what they're doing is great. It's probably the best thing in barbecue right now of what they're exposing to people over there with barbecue, because it's really cool, and I like that. But go back to what we were talking about is if team participation's down, contests are down, but new contests are coming on. But the memberships fell off to less than, I think, under 18,000 now, or right at 18,000, under 19,000. But they've added in the we lost 53 contests in 2018, but we've picked up 2,423 new judges. So where does that make sense? We're losing contests, creating judges. We have a known judge problem. And in that same 18 months, we've lost 1,900 members after picking up 2,300 judges. So, look at that swing. Add those numbers together. There's 4,000 person swing there. And that's just in dues paid membership at $40 a head. So we keep saturating the market with judges, and then we wonder why we're hitting bad tables, even though we're averaging the best we can. We've got guys that are cooking 3 contests, then that's all they can get into a year. But then we have guys that are locking in and cooking 30 contests a year. We have got to stop creating judges as a revenue tool.
If you get in, is there one of these things that you would like to tackle first? I mean, I think, a lot of people that are running for a board have a good platform or a number of ideas, but in reality, what can you really get pressed across during your time in? So, what ranks highest on your priority? Is it figuring out what the financial situation is first and foremost, and then moving into a team or a contest fall-off thing?
Well, if you're reading the bull sheet, they ask a short-term and long-term goals issues, and I named 2 or 3 things there that are short-term goals, and they're all equally as important. And yes, the falling membership, the issue of contests, the judging issue, and the revenue and the financial background is they're all equally important and they're immediate. And it's not going to be one guy can handle that. But the most important thing to me, first and foremost, is improve this communication. Let's eliminate this transparency. So there's no doubt. Let's not be ashamed to say, hey, we've messed up and we've spent, the money, that we should have went to barbecue, and we've lost sponsors, or we're doing business with ourselves or something. But let's open the books. Let's open the shades and create some sunlight into this organization. Let's drop the transparency and communication. Once you start doing that and the right hand begins working with the left hand in this issue, then you'll see contests stabilize. You'll see membership confidence levels rise, which will mean memberships will come back. And then if we work on something strong, don't meet by a committee. And I'm not saying anything against the CBJ committee or the rep committees. Those are hardworking guys. But you've got to be able to give them the attention and the tools to work faster than to meet one night a month, 9 months out of the year, change one rule, and then make it happen. We've got to work faster. And that's going to come from the day-to-day administrative staff. And we've got to deal with an administrative staff that can act. We have a board that micromanages an 18,000 member organization, which the day-to-day staff should handle that. Like I said, I'm chairman of the Oklahoma Indian Gaming Association, which is the largest trade association for gaming in Oklahoma with 38 tribes. I have 38 members on the board of directors. I have 300,000 members in that organization, and it's a $5 billion industry. Do you think 38 of us could guide an industry like that? No. We have a staff with a strong director and leadership and attorneys and accountants that say, okay, here's where we're going. Here's our recommendation based on our professional expertise, and this is where we need to go. And then we give them the tools and the budget to make it happen. And in the last 30 years in gaming, I've been chairman of that organization almost 2 decades. So I believe I know how to at least unify a board of 12 and assemble a group of people that can get something done with $1 million a year budget.
David Qualls joining me here on the show, and he's graciously asking for your consideration to vote for him for the 2019 opening KCBS Board of Directors. When does voting start and end, Dave?
Well, I think voting starts January 2nd, and then it ends, I believe, the 15th or the 16th, something like that. I don't have that date in front of me. just in the minutes of the meeting, they're going to roll out at the 11th hour the new website and handle the voting themselves now instead of a independent body handling the voting process. And I have a problem with that. I wrote a long, detailed email to the board today about this, that you have to now get signed up to the KCBS website before you can even figure out how to get into it to vote. And this system was supposed to have been live in September. It's still not live today, and we start voting in a week or 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, whatever it is. And given KCBS's reputation of handling technology rollouts, be it the Judge program, the SAM sign up, just a simple website, the simple mobile app for your iPhones, I don't have a lot of confidence that they can get 18,000 members registered in a website, let alone make them have to agree to a second set of terms and conditions before they can even exercise their right to vote that they paid the $40 membership to do. But that's a whole different subject right now. But that's when the voting is. But I'm not 100% confident that they're even going to roll it out in time based on their minutes of their meetings and their board agenda and committee reports. And that's all I know is what I'm reading. And I'm not reading anything into that I'm adding to, just taking history and fact.
David Qualls looking for your vote and humbly hoping that you will listen to what he said this evening and then make your own decisions. And then if you are willing to give him your support, he'll gladly take it. It starts maybe January 2nd, but we'll see. So keep an eye on the KCBS website. That's kcbs.us. To make sure that the voting is going to happen on those dates. And Dave, always appreciate the time to give to the show, and good luck to you, my friend.
Greg, thank you, and good luck to everyone that's running. There's a good field of candidates out there.
All right, there he is, David Qualls. Thanks, Dave. Look at this guy running for the board. That is ballsy, as we say. Whoa,
all guests appear via the Traeger Grills hotline.
A lot of people have often said that is a thankless job, but man, listen to those qualifications. Dave has the business acumen behind him to maybe push some of these great agendas forward that he's got. Hard to argue with those numbers, by the way. They are real numbers. All right, folks, let me talk to you quickly about Cook Shack before we get to Bryan Crawford talking about pit Spritz. Cook Shack manufactures smoker ovens for barbecue lovers with any amount of experience. Whether you barbecue in the backyard, on the competition circuit, or in a 5-star dining facility, Cook Shack has the unit that will do the job. And with a full line of barbecue sauces, spices, pellets, and wood chunks, it's the perfect one-stop shop. Cook Shack strives to be your barbecue resource center by offering cooking classes, online recipes, how-to videos, 2 blogs, Smoke and Grilling 101s, and a video cooking classroom. Check out their website at cookshack.com or follow them on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Pinterest, and Google+. Get advice and share your passion for barbecue on their world-class barbecue forum. Cook Shack pellet-fired smokers are the choice of champions because they were designed by a champion, Ed Fast Eddie Boren. The FEC 100, PG 1000, always customer favorites. The PG 1000 can actually double as a smoker and a grill. Low and slow, hot and fast, pellet grill line gives you the most for your money. Cook Shack residential electric smokers, #1 in the industry. High quality means high durability and versatility. Anything you can cook in your oven, you can make in a Cook Shack. Passion and dedication drives Cook Shack's manufacturing, with quality always being at the forefront. Get the best in barbecue since 1962. Call 800-423-0698 or visit their website at cookshack.com. Bryan Crawford from Crawford's Barbecue coming up next. Stick around. Be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
The segment brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via Bluetooth. And if you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in your home, you're in luck because Fireboard is fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. That's 816-945-2232. And we thank the good folks at Fireboard for their continued support of the show. All right, helping me close it out tonight, a competitive barbecuer, Texas-based, and he's brought a product to market that he hopes you will try. We're always trying for ways to make barbecuing both easier, more efficient, and more flavorful, and he hopes to have something that will take care of both or all of these at the same time. So we'll race to the Traeger Grills hotline and welcome a first-timer to the show, Bryan Crawford. Bryan, how are you, buddy?
Good. How about yourself?
Absolutely fabulous, Bryan. Appreciate you making time for the show this evening. Great to have you here. So before we get into the pit Spritz and some of the other stuff, quick background on you, how you got into barbecue, what you might do professionally, and then we'll dive more into the barbecue stuff.
I got into barbecue just like everybody else, I reckon. That just in the backyard trying to... Is that better?
Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay. In the backyard, we're passionate making food for family and friends and all that good stuff. But and then after a while, I learned that there's a competition circuit out there. So I eventually felt like I was good enough to win, and I was sorely wrong. It took a lot contest to figure out just how bad I was and how much I needed to learn. It was quite a learning curve, and finally, last couple of years, I've been starting to compile some wins and at least be competitive, and it's been a lot of fun. It's an addictive sport for sure. If I could do it every weekend, I would.
Are you mostly IBCA or Texas sanctioned, or do you get out and do some of the other stuff like FBA and KCBS?
Right now, just IBCA. As I'm right here in San Antonio. There's, I believe, 4 KCBS contests in Texas, and 2 in the Houston area, 1 in Dallas area, and 1 in Austin area. I haven't dipped my toe in that just yet. I figure it is so easy just to do the IBCA right here in San Antonio area, because I could be there's generally a contest almost every weekend within an hour from my house. So I'm not like some of these guys who live out in the boondocks and have to drive 4 or 5 hours just to one contest and then turn around and drive 4 or 5 hours back home. So I'm lucky to be centrally located to a lot of contests.
Do you have a competitive streak in you where you just like to try it? Because now it's 4 meats instead of 3, and you're doing a pork shoulder that you don't do on an IBCA, or just because it's close, you'd like to give it a try?
No, I want to dip my foot into some KCBS and, challenge those guys. I know that as an IBCA cook, that as IBCA cooks as a whole, they're good enough to win. All you got to do is look at all the great IBCA cooks that are out there beating KCBS guys all the time. Ernest Cervantes,
Fred Robles,
right. Guys like that. I mean, every time they go up against KCBS guys, they're holding their own, not just whip their butts. So it's not that IBCA guys can't beat KCBS. It's just for me, it's just a lot more convenient to do IBCA.
Bryan Crawford joining me here on the show, pitmaster Crawford's barbecue team and the creator of Pit Spritz. CrawfordsBBQ.com is the website if you want to check it out. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the product called Pit Spritz. How do you use it, and what's the win for the consumer?
Well, the primary use is obviously the Spritz. You take the peach, for instance, that's the one that's available right now. I have several more flavors going to be available here in the next month. As you're sitting there cooking your ribs, every 15-20 minutes, I like to spritz them. Keep the moisture up on them, keep that outer layer from getting too dry. I mean, I personally don't want a stringy bark at the end of the cook with the ribs, and so it helps keep the rib itself moist. And then also with the Spritz, like the peach, for instance, it's going to add a sweet peach flavor, and I have a lot of sugar in it, so that sugar is going to help caramelize on there and just give it a good zing at the end. And it does have a little bit of butter, and anything that has butter in it when you're cooking is going to make it better. So
before you got into the Pit Spritz business, you were obviously doing some of all of this during your cooking process, whether you were just spritzing it with like apple juice or peach juice or whatever you're using, and then maybe during I don't know if you wrap your ribs, but you're maybe throwing butter in there. Was it just like, hey, why don't I figure out a way to fit all of this into a bottle? It's easy to go. I can stick a spray head on it, and now I've eliminated steps and really made it a more efficient process?
Yeah, absolutely. I trimmed down about 3 different steps into one step with this, with my Spritz. And now, for instance, when I wrap, I just have 3 ingredients. I have my Spritz as the liquid, and I'll throw a little brown sugar, and sometimes I'll throw a little honey on the top. But when I wrap, I'm pouring 3-4 ounces of that Spritz at the bottom, and that provides a nice juicy steam to help, again, enhance more moisture at the end of the cook.
I always love the journey of getting to a product that you feel is comfortable taking to market. So how many different revisions or recipes did you have to go through from your initial genesis of we're going to put this in a bottle to when you said, hey, this is good enough to take to market?
It was a lot more difficult than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot easier, but as everything in life, it's never as easy as you might think it's going to be. So when I first started doing it, I had to go through several packaging companies that would even talk to me at a low scale, because a lot of these packaging companies wanted me to give them a $50,000 order. I'm like, ooh, that's a little bit tight right now.
You don't have that in your pocket?
No, I'm not that committed yet. And so then once you get a packaging company that is willing to go, on a small scale with you that you can afford, then at that point, you're going to go back and forth with your recipe. And the thing I learned also about recipe is, it's one thing to make a recipe in your kitchen where you got all the access to several different things, but another thing to make that recipe in an industrial kitchen to where they are going to need buy the products at bulk, and you need to make your recipe be able to transfer over to something they can do in bulk and bottle for you. Such as if you were using an ingredient in your recipe that is, say, not widely available, then it's going to be tough to do your recipe. So you have to have your recipe easy to duplicate in the commercial setting. I guess that would be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, is there a lot of back and forth between you and the co-packer that say, hey, Bryan, you're calling for X. We feel that from a, as you said, maybe a sourcing perspective, and then, of course, it all comes down to overall cost. If you just switch and go from this to this, it's going to be easier for us to get. It's going to be cheaper per bottle or per unit. It's going to save you this kind of money. You'll be able to build a little bit more margin in on the sales side. Do you have a lot of conversation in that, and do you feel like you had to compromise somewhere, or did you refuse to compromise to make sure that it was a Bryan Crawford product that you were putting out there?
Well, I did have to switch things up a little bit just so I could. I was introduced to some ingredients that I never really thought of. He'd be like, try this ingredient because I can buy it in bulk. And so I would go buy this ingredient, and I try to repeat it in my kitchen to get what I wanted. So I had a lot of going back and forth to try to make what I originally made that I really loved, and then transfer the ingredients to what he said he can get to duplicate in the long run. That stuff goes back and forth. It's not like he has time to sit there with me hours on end. So it's like weeks before you get that figured out. And then finally, when you get something that you like, then you send them the recipe, and then they send you a test batch. And then if they like if I like the test batch, then we're good. And then we got another hurdle we got to go through. Then we got to have it tested, have it FDA approved. We had to have nutritional facts done. And then that's a pain.
Plus labeling and bottling, and your bottle has a spray head. So, I mean, you have a couple other components that your traditional rub or sauce doesn't really have to contend with either.
Yeah, but one thing I liked about the Spritz when I first come out with it, and even still to this day, is the rubs and sauces. There's a million of them.
Yep.
I mean, how many Spritzes are there?
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. I mean,
none.
you're pretty unique to the market. So, from a price point perspective, where is a bottle of Pit Spritz right now?
Right now, it's a bottle of Pit Spritz. If you buy it on my website, it's $11. And I'm in several stores in the, Texas area, and I'm hoping to get in several stores all over. I mean, obviously, I'd like to grow this as large as possible, and at least make enough money to pay for my expensive barbecue habit.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head. Expensive barbecue habit. I mean, is $11 a bottle like competitive? I mean, like you said, you're kind of unique in the market, so you don't have a lot of other things that you can say. Well, the ingredients are a pretty big difference, so here's why one might be X price and one might be Y price. Do you just set a price and see where it goes, and you have some flexibility to adjust?
If you look at other, when I looked at other competition items, like there's rib glazes and all these different things that we use all the time. You take a bottle of rib glaze, it's $11 average. And it's actually got less in it. I mean, my bottle's a 16-ounce bottle, and you can get, depending on how much you use during your cooking process. If you use it in a foil wrap, obviously you can use more. But if you're going to use it strictly Spritz, you're going to get 3-4 cooks out of it. So it will go a long ways. And you have to remember, I'm on a very small scale. If I'd have ordered that $50,000, then they would have done it a lot per bottle, a lot cheaper. So if that's the thing with any specialty item, I think a person sees in a store buying from somebody small like myself, it's going to be a little more because we can't afford to do a semi-load at a time.
Peach is out now. You had mentioned there's going to be other flavors coming in a month or so. What other flavors are you currently working on?
I have apple and pineapple going to be out.
Nice.
And one that I think that is going to be real exciting for a lot of people. I've been getting, because I've made some just like what's going to be made from and given them out to a few people, is beef, which is going to work real good on brisket for the competition guys. And like I said, all these work great in the wraps. And I've even had a few people using it in some injections. And I had a chef friend of mine made a marinade out of my peach. There's, it's got a lot of different uses. The sky's the limit. Heck, if you want to take a little vodka and 7-Up and throw an ounce or two of peach in there, you got your cocktail.
That's right. A little butter. I mean, no problem. We love that. Makes it go down a little bit easier. CrawfordsBBQ.com is the website if you want to check it out. Are there any other non-Spritz products that you're looking to unveil over the course of 2019, or is Spritz where it's
I do have a barbecue sauce that I like real well. I've been running it. It's as a competition guys, hardly anybody runs just a single sauce for their glaze. Mm-hmm. They're mixing and matching 2-3 different things, and this is 2/3 of my mix and match of my glaze. So I really like the sauce, and my website has some different swag type stuff to kind of fill it up a little bit. Shirts and hats and just more junk you could fill your house up with.
Why not?
Go
if
ahead.
You're looking to step up that rib game with a little peach flavor and add some efficiency to the process, Brian's asking you to consider heading over to the website, CrawfordsBBQ.com, and picking up 1 or 7 cases of the Pit Spritz. Again, that's peach flavor for now, but you got apple and you got pineapple coming down the pike as well sooner than later. Brian, always appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Real quick, can I say one thing?
Please.
If you're listening out there or wherever and you have a local barbecue store that you go to, ask for it. Tell them to contact me. I'd love to get it in the store, your local store. Then you don't have to pay shipping, and everybody's a little happier.
And you got it on hand in case you happen to just run out at the worst time, which always is the worst time. And
exactly.
If you have any questions or you can't get a hold of Brian, get a hold of me. I can make sure you get all his contact information as well, so we can get those mom and pop shops set up with some Pit Spritz from Crawford's Barbecue as well. Brian?
You might tell them about the promo code you got.
Why don't you tell them?
Well, right now, and any of the Centralites out there that get 10% off, just use the promo code Greg.
GREG, very easy, and you get 10% off. So, Brian, appreciate you doing that as well, and appreciate you supporting the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less, by the way.
Absolutely.
That's great. Good partnership there. So, are you going to be cooking before the end of the year's up, Brian?
No, I just finished a cook-off last weekend in Uvalde, Texas. It was a pretty good-sized one. Briscoe County Ranch, there's 151 teams. I had pretty good luck. I had 11th place brisket and a 14th chicken. So I was pretty happy considering it was the who's the who's in Texas barbecue pitmasters. Your friend Fred Robles, he got first place brisket. You know, he's always one that gets lots of nice walks, and can't go wrong with Fred's cooking class that he's got coming up too.
No doubt. The Texas contests always seem to pull into the hundreds of teams, which is also pretty cool to see. So once again, the website is crawfordsbbq.com. We're talking with the pitmaster of Crawford's barbecue team, Bryan Crawford. And Brian, appreciate your time tonight.
Absolutely.
There he is. Get the pit Spritz, for crying out loud. What are you waiting for? Of course you want to try it. Everybody loves new products that are coming out, right?
All guests appear via the Traeger Grills hotline.
Love new products. All right, here we go. Let's talk to you quickly about Big Papa Smokers, and then we will look to wrap the show. CrawfordsBBQ.com, the website once more. Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue-related. Their curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies get you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Everything at BigPapaSmokers.com has been pitmaster approved by Sterling Big Papa Ball himself. They have championship rubs and seasonings, popular flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, all proven winners on the competition circuit. I like the Double Secret Steak Rub and Little Louie's Seasoned Salt. Why not? Big Papa's offers 13 perfectly balanced flavors that transform ordinary meals into extraordinary. Looking to improve the flavor of your competition barbecue recipes? Why not add a little Simply Marvelous barbecue? That's right, they've combined forces with them over there, and that's called the West Coast Offense. You know, over the past few years, the West Coast Offense has cornered the market on competitive barbecue and redefined flavor profiles that cooks from across the country have begun to aim for. They also have the online exclusive for those Simply Marvelous rubs, so stop by the website and pick some up today. Aside from the premium selection of rubs, they also have some great sauces. They also offer the very best pellet, charcoal, and wood cookers available today. If you're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use, check out the Mac 2-Star General Pellet Grill. Big Papa Smokers is the exclusive Mac dealer, and they even offer special packages. If you're not a fan of the pellet smokers, that's fine. Take a look at the Old Hickory Ace BP. It's the only charcoal smoker that Big Papa trusts on his competition trailer. If you're a backyard barbecue enthusiast like me or some of the other Centralites, for a durable and versatile grill that's easy to use and will last forever, might I suggest the M Grill from Texas. It's just what you need. They're built like tanks. If you're not sure of what grill you need, you can't go wrong with anything featured on BigPapaSmokers.com. They have something for every kind of backyard cooking budget, and it's clear that this is the place to go, right, for all things barbecue and grilling related. If you have any questions, give them a call, 877-828-0727, or shop the website, BigPapaSmokers.com. That's BigPoppa Smokers.com. Let's wrap it up. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Bryan Crawford once again for joining us last segment, talking about the pit Spritz. Always love finding out the stories and the genesis of products. I love when people take the risk, because if I'm being honest, I'm not taking any of that risk. No way.
Big stuff out of here.
However, he's right. He's a little unique to the market. It's not just another rub or not just another sauce, so that's really cool. So we wish Bryan good luck, and if you're interested in giving it a shot, certainly go ahead on over to CrawfordsBBQ.com and pick up a bottle of the Peach Pit Spritz. 10% off if you use coupon code GREG, G-R-E-G. All the way back in the first hour, Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. We talked tenderloins, Chateaubriand, and safety for food vacuums and prime rib. Great stuff. We talked about how our football teams are also back in contention, kind of. Finally. After Meathead, we talked with David Qualls. He's running for the KCBS Board of Directors coming up. Voting might start January 2nd. DavidQualls.com is his website if you want to check out his platforms. That's Qualls. And then we wrapped it up with Bryan Crawford from Crawford's Barbecue. Big show planned for you next week, as always. Coming up on the end of the year, coming up on the huge 2-hour embedded correspondence segment on Christmas Day. There will be a show on Christmas. September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next time, this is your program host and proud U.S. American Greg Rempe saying good night now.